Okay, good evening. Yeah. Well, tonight we have two parts to our class. The first one is kind of vocabulary and concept class. So we have repeated the sketch many times from Jeremiah 17 and used it to understand something about the old sin nature. One lady recently asked me, where is the old sin nature located in the person? Where is it located? Is it in the mind, or is it in the emotions, or in the will? Where is the old sin nature located? And I said it's actually located in the whole person, because we are sick from the top of our head to the bottom of our feet. Wounds and bruises and putrefying sores that cannot be bound or mollified with ointment or bound up and corrected. We are really sick in a spiritual way, and that has affected us psychologically. So the first part of our class is to review the nature of man fallen, and then the nature of man saved, the new man. So we have two men that we're studying in Bible psychology, and then the terminology that we use when we study Bible psychology, because all of these words are in the Bible. The words spirit and heart, these two words are very important in the beginning of our study and understanding people. The end result of understanding the subject is that it helps us understand ourselves, and it also helps us understand other people who are saved, then understand other people who are saved but carnal, and then understand people that are unsaved. And so there's like great benefit to putting together a psychology that is congruent with all the parts kind of coming together. And then to read parts of the Bible where you can define what is happening with the terminology that is in the Bible, that we understand what happens when Gideon makes a decision, or when King Solomon is such a wise man and then he makes decisions, and negative ones and sinful ones. So the first part is the model, and we'll review the model and talk about the model. And I think it is simple, but it's very profound. And it's that model that we're reading almost every class from Jeremiah 17. So we'll go there. Then after we review the model and we talk about, we do some more in our vocabulary and explaining our old sin nature, then we will move to our subject for tonight, which is the will of man. And this is in your book on page 119. Why not just take a glance at that? If you have your book with you, turn to page 119. You know, there's so much material in this class, and you just have to do your work. You know, be sure to do your work alongside the class, like review the material, do your homework assignments, you know, work on it, have a rap session about it, talk about it, even if you have time after the class or the next day or sometime during the week, and work on the material, because it is awesome. And see if you can come up with things that provoke you in your thinking regarding Bible psychology. Because you could be a counselor, you could be a pastor, a body member who has some insight or understanding on the subject and are able to minister to people based on the finished work. Because the Bible psychology that we're studying is based on the finished work. It's fantastic when people understand the finished work and what it means. I see myself in both of these models. So turn now to Jeremiah 17 with me, please. And we'll look at the first one, verse 5. Jeremiah, this is, the sun is shining in our diagram here. So we have our sun here for both plants. We have a difference between the curse and the man that is cursed. And we say the cactus. The root system of the cactus is a heart with a hole in it. Can you see that up there? Oh yeah, it comes out good. Okay. And there's a curse on the man. Which man? The man that does not trust the Lord. Who are they? Unsaved people. And also believers that have shifted in their way of life and in their thinking of, God. I believe in God, but you know how we draw that picture with the circle, and I'm in the center. And my life is at the center. If you make your life at the center, there's a curse on your life. That doesn't matter who you are. There's a curse in the man that does not trust in the Lord. And you will find it in your life personally when you are trusting and you're giving your life up and you're giving your heart over to, you are putting your trust in, then you're like the diagram on the other side where you have the tree, okay, and the root system is the heart, the new heart, and the root system. And there's a river there. This is the river, which is not in the other side of the diagram, okay. On that side, there is a resource that no one really knows about except you, the believer, and to whom God will reveal it. Matthew 11:27. Nobody knows the Son but the Father, and nobody knows the Father but the Son. And those that are revealed, it's revealed to them. So this is a blessing. There is a blessing there. Now, the difference is that the perception of the two people, this is the difference between the two people, is really experience, or we can say the mind and the capacity of perception. They are seeing the world differently. This one does not see good when it comes, not see good when it comes. It could be they have amazing blessing around them, but they cannot see it. It could be great things are happening in their life, but they cannot see it. There's a curse on their soul, and their mind is affected by the fact they are not trusting the Lord. It affects the mind. It affects their life. They cannot see it. On the other hand, with the person that is trusting the Lord, then there's a river, and they have life. So there's life, and then it says they don't see the heat when it comes. Isn't that correct? It's at verse 8. For he shall be as a tree planted by the waters, and that spreads out her roots by the river, and shall not see when heat comes. But her leaf shall be green, and shall not be careful. There's a boldness here. Let's put that word down here. There's a boldness, not a caution, but there's a boldness that the other doesn't have. Isn't that amazing? They're like, it's Ecclesiastes is at chapter 8, verse 1. They're righteous, their face is like a lion. Proverbs 29:1. The righteous are as bold as a lion, but the wicked flee when no one chases them. Ecclesiastes 8:1, and then it's Proverbs is at 29:1. Let's double check. Ecclesiastes 8, yes, 1. Who is a wise man? Who knows the interpretation of a thing? A man's wisdom makes his face to shine, and the boldness of his face shall be changed. And then 29. Nope. 28:1. Okay. The wicked flee when no man pursues, but the righteous are bold as a lion. All right, now, this diagram that we have up on the board is dealing with our sin nature. And because of this sin nature, there is a curse in the human race. From here, we understand how this affects the soul. So the root problem is up on the board. The root problem is the heart. That's the root problem. You know, sometimes people come for counseling to get their problems answered or solved. They come, my marriage is falling apart, can you help me? My business is failing, what do you have to say to me? My children are rebellious, can you help me, give me advice? And we are very happy to do it. There's no question about it. But if we would really be thinking about the problems that we have as people, if we were to go back to what is really a fundamental need that all of us have, is this one up on the board. You know, this is what we do as a ministry. If the root could be dealt with, if the Lord could deal with me in leading me so that my new heart becomes the government for my soul. Do you remember, now we'll go into vocabulary in a minute, but do you remember the class when I had the gloves? The polyurethane glove. There was the two of those, I think, the blue one, the white one, and they represented the innermost part. The hand represents God. God coming into you, into your spirit and heart. Two things. Remember Ezekiel 36:26. I'll give you a new spirit and a new heart. Then the next glove was what? The bulkier glove. The 5 fingers was the soul. And the 5 parts of the soul. The spirit has 3 functions. 3 functions. The soul has the 5. We'll go over that in a minute. But then we have, after the soul, we have the body, the human body. Now, we understand that the human body is connected to my soul and my heart and spirit. There's no question. And my human body can be the cause of some of my psychological problems because the human body is organic and my body produces hormones, disease, good health, and so on is a fundamental part of my being. But when we are studying our Bible, we generally are recognizing that the body comes later, though it is critical and important. How much sleep you get, what kind of food you eat, how do you live, and if you are sick, and so on. So there's no question the link between our organic life and our spiritual life. But in the Bible, in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, it says, and your spirit, soul, and body be sanctified. And look at the order of those words. Spirit, soul, body. You know, usually in the natural, we start with the body, then the soul, and spirit. Yeah. The body is important in varying degrees at different times in our life. I mean, it's always important, but not always that important. Our body is just a carriage that carries us around, you know. The body is not that, it's important, but there is a lot of importance put upon the physical body naturally, because it's what you see. It's also something you can manage. But the spiritual life is of utmost importance, and that's why, you know, Jesus came and showed us that. No one, look at Proverbs 16:33 with me, and you see its importance. 16:32. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that rules his spirit than he that takes a city. Okay. So let's do it. Right now, for a minute or two, explain to your neighbor the diagram up on the board, up there on the screen, okay? The curse on man and then the blessing on man. Let's go now to our explanations and vocabulary. We said that the difference is in these two lives, or the two examples, is Jeremiah 17, verse 5. Thus saith the Lord, cursed is the man that trusts in man, makes flesh his arm, whose heart departeth from the Lord. Can that happen to a believer? Yes, my heart can depart from the Lord. What's the key word here? Heart. What's at the core of the cactus here? The roots is the heart. And we put a hole in it. And we said that there were two things that the heart has been made or designed in function when God made Adam and Eve and put them in the garden. They were needing two things. What were they? Good. Security. They wanted security and significance. And Larry Crabb said that women are generally more inclined looking for security, and men are generally more interested in significance. But both have those two things. When my heart is not satisfied with God, and God filling my heart, then I have a hole in it. What's the point of having a hole in the heart in our diagram? But that there's something missing, and also it has the idea of these, I want to put something in there. I want to put something in my heart. So I'm searching for things. I want to be valuable. I want to be important. And because I can't find in this life, in the nature, that which really satisfies me, then this is affecting my perception. And we put here, we can put here the word soul. So we have spirit and heart. Spirit, what did we say about the spirit of the unbeliever, or the spirit of the unbeliever? What do we generally say in our theology? And you hath he quickened or made alive because you are spiritually dead. So the spirit is dead. Man has sinned, so he died that day. He died the day he sinned. He died in his spirit right away. God was gone. Then in his heart became deceitful, and he started to live his life without God. And that produces problems in his soul. And what did we say about the soul? How many parts did we say? We have 5, okay. And then each of these parts, we can say something about it. We can do this because this is just to review the mind. And what did we say? How many functions does the mind have? 5, okay. Memory, thinking, knowing, imagining, and understanding. Yeah. This is darkened, Ephesians 4:18. You see, in our Bible study, this is Bible psychology, and the Bible verses are important for you to know that we're not making it up, that you can study it, and there can be alterations in our study because I want it to be somehow systematic and correct and logical and sensible and real. But this is amazing that we are able to say, wow, this really fits together. That the mind is darkened because of the blindness of the heart. Look at the diagram. The heart is blind, so it affects the mind. The mind is darkened. The man doesn't have understanding. He doesn't understand, and it's amazing. I got a lot. I'm really interested in this, blindness, because it's really true. Like people, they just don't believe, or they don't want to, and so on. Anyway, mind. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Then we had the emotions, and in our study we talked about I just kind of broke it into 2 categories that I call them high level emotion and low level emotion. Do you remember that? Like people are emotional and they could be screaming and yelling at each other, or go to a horror movie and their adrenaline is pumping through their, and they're like so worried or nervous or scared or frightened. Okay, those emotions are in our lives and they play a purpose. I mean, they have a function. There's some reason for them, and there's no question about it. They're actually very valuable in some ways. The fight and flight instinct. But we also have another way of life, and that is to float. Noah's Ark floated. He didn't fight and he didn't run, but he floated, So we have what's called high quality emotions, like peace and joy, a sense of confidence, security. These are high level emotions. So we taught about that. Then the mind, emotions, and then the will. And this is what we'll be speaking about tonight. And we have 5 aspects. We'll see the will in our chapter here. The will and 5 different things that the will is doing. And then find mind, emotions, will. Conscience and this is we had the conscience linked with emotion. Conscience and emotion are linked, but not all emotions are connected to conscience. But when I am guilty or ashamed or afraid, it can be very much linked to the fact that I sense that I'm wrong, that something is wrong. I am wrong. I have messed up. I have made a mistake. I've done something very bad. And so that's, And people can be guilty in their conscience when actually it's a function of their temperament or their personality. It can also be a function of their culture. And they can also, the conscience can be modified by culture and by training and how I grow up and what I'm very sensitive to and what I'm not sensitive to. Conscience is really a problem for people. You know, it's a big problem and a big part of psychology. In the secular world, the conscience is a big problem to people because it's so strong. And it just sends a message to people. And it is the reason sometimes, but definitely in some cases, why people have addictions, because their conscience bothers them so much. So they numb the pain by drinking or by drugs because the conscience is roaring and just telling them every day how much they have messed up in their life or how they have failed. It's like a bad way of life. And it would be great to have an answer. And actually we have. Okay. Then consciousness. And what did we say about that? We said there are two functions for this primarily. And they are, anybody want to, it was on your exercise tonight, yes? God consciousness and self-consciousness, yes. In this case, on this side of the diagram, we're going through how the man who is under the curse, and just using the definitions to see just that this curse affects his soul. It affects his very being very deeply. And the two things, consciousness is what? Yes, Jason? Okay, my identity and then my purpose in life. So, is that too much? I mean, you know, it is, and it's kind of simple, but at the same time, a lot of things can come to your mind about it. I mean, think of a man who is without Christ, and what kind of soul does he have? And how does he live, Pastor Ralph? Yes. Yes. Right. That's, yeah. Can I repeat what you're saying so they can hear you? I'll just repeat it. Pastor Ralph is saying, what's impressing on him in the last weeks is that the hole in the heart represents the need for God, right? Right? Is that what you're saying? And then go ahead. Yes. Yes. Well, but this is okay. All right. Here's a guy. He has a need for God, and the curse that has come upon his life is in his soul, and he cannot. How can he be? how can he find God when in his mind he doesn't care or doesn't think God is important? So the fact that God is not important is actually in his heart, and it's in his mind. And his spirit is dead to God. He doesn't know God. There's no Holy Spirit here. So then you look at the environment. If you go to above the cactus and you ask him, what is your life like? He'll say, there's no good. When I don't see any good coming my way. Well, when good comes, he can't see it. And then when the sun is shining, and then when he looks at the soil, because in the text it says that the soil has salt in it. And so you can't grow anything. The salt flats yet out in the west where there's no vegetation because the salt is too much, So they drive their fast cars. They do the test drives on the salt flats there. Guys, there's no vegetation there. So he is in a very serious situation psychologically, and he lives in a whole world of blaming, of finding cause, excuses. He is constantly restless, constantly troubled. I mean, deeply. He can put on a good face because he learns how to behave or be important or be in high society. But when you actually go to where he's really living, I saw a movie, Jackie, it's called. It's about Jackie Onassis, Jackie Kennedy, on the airplane. And it was very fascinating, her psychology. And I mean, her husband is assassinated. And it was very well done. The movie was made, I think, I don't really know the subject, but it was very interesting, like her bad marriage. Her husband, that really doesn't say it, but it's obvious in history that there was not the trust. That she was the first lady in the country, but she was wrestling with so many things and struggling in her life. Here's a woman that should be at the top of her game, in every way, married to the President of the United States. And yet tragedy and then questions about her life, if she should have ever married a Kennedy, that she talks to a priest in the movie, and she's opening up her heart to the priest and asking, why would this happen? And all of these kind of questions. Kind of interesting, like to think about it. Okay. This is exactly the point of the parable. I mean, this is an amazing insight, I feel, for our Bible psychology. Because really there's just two different, there's just this one and the effect, and then the other one and other effects in the soul. Now, when somebody is born again, and we say your life has changed, you're a new creation, then really? How do you say that? What do you mean? Oh, really? It is true. Because Ezekiel 36:26 and 2 Corinthians 5:17, you're a new creation. And that new heart is what we didn't have before. Pastor Ralph brought it out. I want to say something. This man will never, the old heart, the old sin nature, it will never seek for God and never find God, because it is at enmity with God. The heart has to be a new one given. This one is crucified. A spear went up through Jesus' body to his heart. and his heart was judged. Think about it this way. When Jesus was crucified, his hands were judged, his feet were judged with a nail, his heart was judged with a spear, and his head, mind, was judged with thorns. God is saying the whole man is sick. And there is nothing there that I have pleasure in. And that's in Romans chapter 7. I find no good thing that dwells in me. This is called total depravity. This is a great lesson tonight. Really, this class is a great class because total depravity is not embraced in every theology. The Catholics teach that man fell, but not intellectually. But by his intellect, he can find God. But no, we say, no, the mind, the whole head is sick. And the heart, you see, the mind is linked with the heart. If we take this in this sequence, it's the heart that is blinding the mind. And what's wrong with the heart is that it doesn't have God. Okay. Yes, Suzette? Yeah. I have to repeat what you're saying because not everybody can hear you. Yes, Suzette is talking about the fallen nature, and the Holy Spirit can change. The Holy Spirit can convict and draw somebody to Christ. And when they believe, then this other part of the diagram happens. That the new heart, brings in this new perception. And now we're able to see things that we didn't see before. And this by our new birth. This is fantastic. So let's go to it. Yeah, Brian. Yes. Right. Yeah, Brian is saying you must be born again. John 3:5. You must be born again. So this is not an option. You cannot take this guy and change him. You know, there isn't any method on the earth by which this heart, this is old sin nature. This is in our DNA and in our physical body. This is OSN, old sin nature. It's not going to go away. It's like we carry it with us our whole life. And after you are born again, you have that old sin nature in your body. Did you know that? The only linkage, but I mean it this way. The only reason you are not in heaven now is because God in his wisdom decided to leave you in a body that has the old sin nature. The link to our past life is in our body. And if you were to leave your body right now, you would be without sin. But because you are in your body, then you are actually living in the presence of a sinful life that is in your body. And it will provoke us to sin. But the scripture says that it doesn't have the legal right or power to cause us to sin. It cannot force us to sin. It doesn't have that authority. but we choose to live in faith. As we live in faith, we have victory over our sin nature, which is in our body. But it is not in our spirit. We have Christ in our spirit, 1 John 3:9. Christ dwells in our spirit, but there is sin that dwells in my body. But Paul said, I keep my body under me. It doesn't have authority over me, 1 Corinthians 9:24. My body is not governing my life, but Christ governs my life. However, if I shift to trusting in man or trusting in my flesh, I will find automatically my old sin nature affecting my soul. And I will end up, with a hardened heart, or emotions that are off the wall, or a will that is rebellious, or I'll find no purpose in my life because the darkness affects my soul. And do you realize that a believer could live in a darkened soul, or a soul that is now hard, even unbelieving, could be angry, guilty, because of the effect that this old sin nature has on my soul. Okay? So do you need to take a break? Huh? A few minutes? How about, okay, let's do it this way. Just take 1 minute, talk to your neighbor about this, and then take a break for 5.